So that first prelude to the prologue, whatever that is, that feels epic. Like, I have no idea what half of those words mean, but the fact that there were all of these kings and they like put their swords in stone, hey, sword in the stone, hey, and then they have died a bunch is pretty wild, and they abandoned one, and then it flashes forward 4,500 years. That is a very long time to flash forward. And Zeth is kind of wild. It's funny because, like, I have no context or frame of references for the Stormlight Archives at all. And the only thing I know about Zeth is the, like, trending TikTok sound. But that was badass. To open it with him like, yeah, we're going to go kill a king today. We wear white because we want to be seen. Because they say, like, if you're going to assassinate someone, they deserve to know you're coming. What? And Stormlight can be absorbed, and it's like a power source that lets you, like, Christopher Nolan Inception places. That was pretty cool. And he's fighting this dude who's in this, like, shard armor. Which, shard blades? Super cool. Like, they can cut through any inanimate object, but then they can't cut living flesh, and it just, like, goes through you, and then your eyes burn in your head. That's wild. But he runs into this, like, knight who's covered in, like, shard armor and has his own 6-foot sword, and it's the king inside the armor. The guy he's trying to kill is actually who he's fighting. That's really cool. And Stormlight can also, like, heal you. Interesting. Gavilar Colon. And he said he had a message for his brother. Very interesting. And he just wrote it in blood because he's like, your last words are sacred. Very, very interesting. I'm in, dude. What an introduction to a character. Listen, you guys are probably right. Kaladin is so cool. He said like 5 words, but he's fighting so many people. He's got knives at the end of his spears, and he's like taken in Sen because he reminds him of somebody. But he's like, hey, you're like a young kid who's just gonna get sent off to die. I don't like that. I'm gonna pay extra just to bring you in. And Dalek is like, yeah, no, we're trained, but like, he's the reason we do so well because he knows he's gonna take care of us. This guy is the coolest. 2 quick little things. So Spren are like little spirit things. And these quotes that open up the chapters, are they just like a collection of people's last words? Ooh. So it goes from this amazing battle and Kaladin's the coolest, and then it cuts to him as a slave, and I was like, oh shit, he used to be a slave. No, this takes place after! Oh no! Alright. I can already tell this series is going to be a real problem for me, because I am so into all of this. They got like, instead of horses, they got like crabs, and then this Spren is like real tiny, and she can like turn into a little woman. She's like talking to Kaladin, and Kaladin's got like cyanide leaves in his hands. Leaves in his hands. There's just, this world is so cool. So I'm on chapter 5, and Shallan is like being interviewed by this woman who's just like roasting her, and she keeps calling her brightness, but for some reason my brain, it just sounds like she's saying precious, you know, like Smeagol from Lord of the Rings. So every time she's like, no, I don't know that, precious. Or like, I didn't study my history's brightness. And I'm like, it just sounds like Gollum. So there are pain spren, hunger spren, anticipation spren. That's pretty cool. I just finished chapter 6, which is called Bridge 4. And, Kaladin's going through it. So Kaladin has been a slave for 8 months, and in that time, he has tried to escape 10 times. And so he killed, in that battle, the big, like, armored guy, stabbed him in the eye, and he was a light eyes, which I guess is a big no-no. Don't kill those guys. And also, he mentioned the void breakers. whatever that is. They like eat flesh? What is that? And his little windspren, she has a name. She's named Syl. That's cool. I like that. And another character that was named was Dalinar. They say he's like the most honorable shard bearer in the king's army. That's pretty cool. I'm excited to meet him. But this whole like bridge bearer, bridge carrier thing is nuts. They're just like wasting slaves to get these bridges. And like, I don't think I fully understand. So they mentioned there's like plateaus, and the cavalry is trying to get from like one place to the other. So they send slaves carrying these bridges to bridge the chasms in between. And like, that would suck. And like, these people that they're at war with currently, they're the same people that Zeth is a part of, right? Like, am I remembering that correctly? But man, dude getting cut up left and right, and wood digging into him, and just getting shot up with arrows, and everyone's dying around him, and like, whew. But also, the Windspread Syl, she knows Kaladin's name, but he's like, I've never said my name. And then they just never mention that again, so that feels significant. All in all, still absolutely loving all of this. I can't wait for more. And, man, Kaladin, this poor guy. He was like the coolest dude on the battlefield, taking care of his friends. But apparently everyone died, and now he's a slave. And it got worse, because now he's carrying a bridge around, and everyone's dying around him again. Just... man. Alright, so I'm a little into chapter 7, and so soulcasters are, like, tools that you use to, like, create stuff, like food, or, like, marble, or things, like, just coming off of Warbreaker, where they're like, oh, these people are gods, but all they can do is, like, transfer breaths, where here it's like they're actually gods who can, like, create matter, which is nuts. And so Shallan is a Light Eyes, because her dad is a Bright Lord. Is that how that works? And so now her plan is to go to one of the most powerful women on the planet to, like, Indiana Jones, steal her soulcaster with one that doesn't really work. And she thinks she's not gonna notice? Whew. That's risky. Let's see how this goes. Also, Shallan is like... she had, like, a weird flashback thing where she was holding, like, a shard blade, but it was, like, silver. And then she's just like, well, let's just not think about that right now. What? Okay, I'm gonna start by saying I do really like Shallan. The story is cool. I'm interested in what she's doing. But it is a bold move to have something as cool and exciting and just crazy as Kaladin and moving bridges and at war and just craziness, and then cut to Shallan book shopping. I'm enjoying it, but there is a part of me that's like, okay, but like, what's Kaladin doing? You know what I mean? So, anyway. So I'm on chapter 9 right now, and I just realized Kaladin went from being like the leader in this army where nobody died, because he made sure that if anyone was injured, they were taken to safety, to being on Bridge 4, where literally everyone dies around him. Oh, man. That is rough. Just finished chapter 10 with Kaladin and his dad being the surgeon and everything, and his dad said one of the best lines I have heard in this book so far, and he says, don't dream the small dreams of other men. Whew! Man, to have a dad that could instill that level of, like, go get it and belief in yourself, no wonder he ended up as cool as he did. Well, I mean, before he, Eesh. Okay, so I'm on chapter 11, and Kaladin mentioned he had a brother, and that he was betrayed in Amaram's army? Huh. I like how they're just, like, throwing random stuff away, just like, oh yeah, and then that, and then they just keep on moving, and I'm like, whoa, hold on, go back, what was that? Okay, so I just finished chapter 11, and Kaladin basically just went to go take himself out. And he goes to the edge, and he's about to, but then Syl shows up, and she's like, hey, I got you something. And she gives him, like, essentially this little, like, poison leaves to take himself out in a different way. But that moment kind of woke him up to be like, wait a second, what am I doing? Then he goes back, chokes Gaz, and is like, Bridge 4 is mine now. And Kaladin's dead, now you're left with this guy. So he basically just snapped out of it. Like the depressive episode that he's been in. And was about to go through with it, but then didn't. So he's like, well, I got to do something different because I can't keep going like this because that only ends one way. And Syl being like, I mean, you got nothing to lose, you know. How can you make it worse? But so that worked. But now he's like, Bridge 4 is mine. I'm taking responsibility. I'm learning these guys' names. Which is pretty cool. I like that. I like that a lot. I'm interested to see where this goes now. Because, yeah, he's mentally he's back on his feet, right? Is that what's happening? Wow, now that I'm like kind of just talking about it out loud because it just happened, that's kind of a lot to digest, isn't it? Okay. I'm on the Ishik interlude, and listen, I had to look up the spelling just in case because Michael Kramer is pronouncing it in a very specific way, but Ishik's god is Voon Makak. What? I mean, it's spelled like Vun Macaque, maybe? But Michael Kramer pronounces it as Voon Makak, and I am 12 years old, apparently. Wait a second, those three people were looking for Hoyd? Huh. Why? What's he doing? Where's he at? Why are people looking for him? Shallan's brother is like a psychopath who rips off crab legs and tortures animals and shit? What? Alright, I got my first community guidelines strike because I was trying to talk about something and I mentioned, something you're not supposed to in regards to a character. But that said, I just finished the first pack of like interludes, and I gotta say, Szeth is really cool. Like the fact that he's been sold so many times to so many different masters is crazy to me. And I wonder, was he born into slavery, or was he like captured and then sold, kind of like Kaladin was, or is this like a thing that's always been? That's kind of wild to think about. And the fact that his, like, oath sphere, whatever, like, whoever currently has it is his master? Like, it's that simple? It's like the Elder Wand, whoever gets disarmed, like, whoop, gotta listen to you now. That would suck. Yet, the one rule that he can't take himself out, terrible. I mean, yikes. And the fact that he's, like, really sad in the prelude scene, the crazy anime fight, he like has PTSD from it, and he's like hiding and trying not to draw attention to himself, because if he does, then one of his masters is going to be like, hey, go do something. He doesn't want to assassinate people. Is nuts. But I really like him. I'm excited to see where his story goes. And the fact that he's like, he has a shard blade and he's a surge binder, whatever that is, but he doesn't want his masters to know that, because then they're going to use him in that way. Whew. Okay, so I just finished the first back-to-back chapters with Dalinar, and big fan. So Dalinar, he goes like crazy when there's storms nearby, and the king that Szeth killed in the prelude is Dalinar's brother. And so his brother's son is now the king. And Dalinar has two sons himself that are also fighting alongside him on this giant hunt. That made me so nervous because, I've seen 300. I've seen Game of Thrones. I know that when a father is with his sons in danger, it's stressful. Also, he had a vision where it said the Everstorm comes. What is that? Like, speaking of Game of Thrones, is the Everstorm like Brandon Sanderson's version of like the Long Night? Is it? Are we staring down the barrel of that? And who's this Wit? The fact that Wit is like a title, and it's basically the king can't be rude, so they just like hire a guy who can just be extra sassy and be rude for people. It's like the Key and Peele like angry translator, except it's like the go-to guy if you need a little extra sass thrown in. Interesting. And it said that he had blue eyes, which he said is not dark eyes or light eyes, which is very confusing. And I was really excited for a second because I have blue eyes, and I was like, ooh, where do I land? And it's like, nowhere. He's just Wit. Which also makes me think maybe he's somebody else that's like important, and he just like goes by Wit because Wit is like the title, and they've had multiple Wits. So I don't know what that is, but I got feelings about that. I feel like there's something else there. And then a Shard Blade takes 10 heartbeats to summon, which is pretty cool. And Shard Plate is essentially like superhero armor that lets you like jump really far or jump really like far down and then land. So that's pretty cool. But Dalinar's Shard Blade is called Oathbringer. Huh. Interesting. And so Dalinar used to be called the Blackthorn. And he was like this badass war hero guy. But he was like drunk when his brother got killed. That's rough. And also very similar to a D&D character that I played a long time ago. But the fact that he's like completely changed and now he's trying to take care of his brother's son and the kingdom, I am loving this character. Like Kaladin, I loved Kaladin at the beginning, but what made Kaladin so cool was we were seeing him from the point of view of other people, and they were just like, yeah, Kaladin, he's the guy. Like, we fight as hard as we do because we know he'll take care of us. And that was a really cool introduction. But Dalinar is like, I'm down with this dude. And they're on this hunt with this like 30-foot tall giant crab thing, and the king's about to die, and Dalinar runs over there, and like his shard blade disappears, and he catches the claw in like a superhero moment. This guy's awesome. This guy is awesome. And it's also pretty cool that like the monsters in the Shattered Plains, their hearts are like gems. I don't know, that's just really, really cool. Anyway, Team Dalinar, all day long. All day long. This guy's awesome. Okay, I have finished chapter 15, and I gotta be honest, I think Dalinar is gonna end up being one of my favorite characters. Now, mind you, I'm really enjoying all the characters and everything that makes them different and cool. I love that. But Dalinar, just like, this guy. The fact that he used to be like this badass, like, hero of legend, but ever since his brother died, the guilt and everything that comes with that, the fact that he was drunk while his brother was being killed and he just carries that. Ooh. It kind of reminds me of Vander from Arcane, who is one of my favorite characters in anything ever. Also played by J.B. Blanc, who was one of my acting coaches, which is pretty cool. But that guy that, like, you know, he used to be this badass, and now he's just trying to, like, do right because he feels bad that, like, he failed his brother, and now he's trying to protect his brother's son. And I love that we're seeing him also from Adolin's point of view, and he's like, oh, my dad used to be the Blackthorn, and now he just, like, doesn't have it. But then he catches a glimpse of him, which is really, really cool. So I like that a lot. But Dalinar said that his brother, his last words to him were like, keep the codes tonight, you know, something's on the winds. But he said that he wrote something, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was Szeth. Szeth took the king's blood and wrote the message of, you know, a man has to find the most important words, or find the most important words a man can say. But Dalinar thinks his brother wrote that in his own blood. So that's interesting. And, like, so historically speaking, the Parshendi hired Szeth to kill Dalinar's brother, who was the king, who is the Alenti. And so they're at war right now. And Dalinar is one of like the generals that's like, in this fight and is protecting the king. And Kaladin is also in this fight, but he's one of the bridgemen in the same army. So that's kind of cool. We're getting like from the general's perspective and from the foot soldier's perspective of the same battles. So that's pretty neat. But yeah, listen, Dalinar, I'm digging this dude a lot. I have a feeling he's probably gonna be my favorite, but we'll see. Hold on. So you can win a shard blade by defeating a shard bearer, and when you get a shard blade, you become a Light Eyes? That's pretty crazy. Also, I love the bit with Kaladin and his younger brother, but it also breaks my heart because they already mentioned that his brother dies, and there's a moment when he's like, hey, your brother like just makes you happy, and he's like, yeah, it's hard to be gloomy when he's around. Oh man, it's like I already know because they've told me, but that sucks. That's rough. And then this whole time, Kaladin's dad is like, I'm a surgeon. I need you to be a surgeon. You're even better than I am at this. We got this. And then Kaladin gets into his first fight, and he's a natural at it. And he's like, I need to be doing this. And he's like, I can hurt people. And you're like, oh man, I can feel the path diverge. And I imagine this is not going to go over well with his dad. But I mean, he picked up the staff like immediately, and that is not easy to do. And then in the modern day, he sees Sadeas, which is cool because that was someone that in the last chapter Dalinar was talking to. So there's some crossover happening. Makes me think that Kaladin may not be geographically that far away from Dalinar and Adolin and the king. So that's pretty cool. The fact that Kaladin is like volunteering to be in the front and like kind of rallying around his men, and he's back to like his old self, where like his men are getting shot and injured, and he's like taking care of everyone as best he can. And then he goes to Gaz at the end, and he's like, "Hey, we're gonna strap the wounded onto the bridge, and then get to where we're going, and then take them off real quick, and then we're gonna put them back." He's like, "No, we're not gonna do that. It's against the rules." And Kaladin's like, "Well, either we do that, or I'm gonna beat you to death." I mean, listen. Some people only speak one language. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, it's just cool. It's just cool that that Kaladin's kind of coming back into his own. Oh, also the beginning of the next chapter, which is chapter 18. You got the little like quotes in the beginning. It says, "A.T. was once a kind and generous man, and you saw what became of him. Race, on the other hand, was among the most loathsome, crafty, and dangerous individuals I had ever met." First off, A.T., cool. Got a little misborn happening. But he was once a kind and generous man, and then you saw what happened to him. So I'm assuming, unless I already know this and I forgot, I'm assuming that once you take hold of a shard, it corrupts you or makes you into whatever that shard's thing is. So A.T. was a kind, generous man, and then he got the ruin and then just had to ruin things. I'm assuming. But a real question is, who is writing these? Because in the first part, the chapter's opened with the death rattles. But now, these quotes are very different from that. I mean, what am I supposed to do with this? This section started with one. It's chapter 12 opened up with, "Old friend, I hope this missive finds you well. Though, as you are now essentially immortal, I would guess that wellness on your part is something of a given." What does any of that mean? And who's he talking to? And who is he? Like, what? I mean, he knows something. Because he says, now that you're immortal. Oh, shit. Hold on. Is this like maybe a friend of someone who became a shard? Hold the phone. shard. Like the shard. Okay. Shard blade. Shard plate. Shards of Adonalcium. What does this mean? I just finished chapter 19, and Dalinar is having this vision of him fighting these like smoke monsters, and this woman is talking to him, and like clearly he's like in someone else's body type of thing, and he's fighting these monsters, and she's like, whoa, you're fighting like one of the Radiants. And then out of nowhere, these two superheroes show up, and they start fighting against a man and a woman in shard plate, which they made a point to say that, so that's got to be uncommon. And then they were like, damn, dude, you really know how to fight. If you want to join the order, I mean, you know, we'll find a place for you. We're over here. And he's like, where am I? And they're like, here. And he goes, when am I? And they're like, this. So he's like having a vision from hundreds of years ago. But they asked him, where did you learn how to fight? And he didn't answer them, which is odd. So I don't know what's up with that. What are you keeping from me, Dalinar? And also, they were like, you fight like the Radiants, and the two Radiants show up, and they're like, do you want to join the Order? And now I'm wondering, where did Dalinar learn to fight, and why didn't he respond to them? Like, I understand he's in a vision, and he doesn't know what's happening right now, and he's like trying to get information. Also, you're talking to this woman, and you're saving her from the smoke monster, and all of a sudden she just turns around and is like, hey. I'd scream. I would. Ah! What's coming out of your mouth? But, yeah, you know, Dalinar over here being an onion with secret layers and shit. Very interesting. Okay, so I just finished chapter 21, which is a great chapter. It's Kaladin, and he's building out his team at Bridge 4 and, you know, making deals, and he's going to give food, and he didn't get in trouble for taking care of the wounded and whatnot. And Rock and Teft, cool, getting names, digging it, love it. But so I start chapter number 22, and the epigraph says, in case you have turned a blind eye to that disaster, know that Aona and Sky are both dead, and that which they held has been splintered, presumably to prevent anyone from rising up to challenge race. Now, I don't remember where I read it, but in one of the previous books, they mentioned something about Odium, whoever that is. Odium, like, had killed other shards, or shards? He had killed others. Is that who Race is? Is that what this is? Like, is Race, like how, like, Ati became Ruin? Is Race Odium? And he's going around, like, killing other, like, shards? Huh. And also, who's writing these? I'm excited to find out. So I just finished chapter 23, and I got to know Rock's backstory, which is cool. Teft didn't say his, which was interesting. But Kaladin mentioned that, like, you know, he's a slave now because he killed somebody, and obviously it was that Bright Lord. And he said that the reason he's a slave now was because he said that Light Eyes don't like it when you refuse their gifts. And he said he was even thanked after taking out that Bright Lord. And then he also said that Sadeas is, like, corrupt to the core. Huh. So, I thought he became a slave because he took out that Bright Lord. But now, I'm thinking maybe he took out that Bright Lord, and then he went to Sadeas, hoping to get, like, a reward or cool, hey, I defeated the guy that we're fighting. And Sadeas was like, well, here's your gift. And he's like, no, I think I'm good. And then he just felt disrespected, so he threw him into slavery. Huh. The plot is thickening. So chapter 24 and chapter 25, we get a Dalinar chapter, but Adolin is just like, like, I understand that he's afraid. That he thinks his dad is getting old and he's having these visions and it's like ruining the reputation of his house. And he's a young man who's trying to, make his own way and get respect. I get it. But also, the Blackthorn is your dad, right? Just take a second, pal. You're going to be fine. It reminded me a lot of, in the first Thor movie, when Thor is, like, yelling at Odin, because he, like, won't go to war. And Odin's just like, we're not trying to go to war, dude. And then Thor goes and starts shit with the Frost Giants. And then he comes back and he's like, yeah, I did it. And Odin's like, you are an idiot. So it kind of reminded me of that. And then the chapter right after was a flashback Kaladin chapter. And his dad is talking about, helping people. And his mom's like, you're going to be a surgeon. He's like, well, what if I, became a baker? She's like, you don't want to be a baker. And he's like, good point. I do like hitting people with a stick. But then the new, Bright Lord comes into town, and I gotta be honest, that was tense. And that chapter is called The Butcher, and I was like, oh shit, what is about to happen? Oh no! And luckily he just got out and was like, and then just left. And I was like, okay. Whew. Stressful. Oh, and also, the fact that The Way of Kings is a book, like an ancient text, in the universe, that is tripping me up left and right. Every time they mention it, it's like, oh, and that's in The Way of Kings. I was like, but I'm reading The Way of Kings. Huh! And the fact, and knowing that Dalinar's Shardblade is called Oathbringer, and the fourth book is called Oathbringer, I'm like, oh boy. Woo! Just finished chapter 26. Got to see Dalinar fight, which is cool, and Adolin. Adolin surprised me. So Sir Barristan is my favorite character in the Game of Thrones books, and it's because he's the greatest living knight. And there's a line where Jaime Lannister is talking about him, and he says he was an artist who only used red. And Brandon Sanderson described Adolin the same way this time. He said, he was an artist with a blade that only used one shade. That was really cool. But then Dalinar being like, oh shit, have I lost my guts for this? And then he's like, snapped right out of it and just started kicking bodies left and right. Nuts. But then the Parshendi, they have a shard bearer now? And he was just looking at him? That can't be good. So just a little life and art kind of coinciding in a cool coincidence. I just finished chapter 27. And it's Kaladin picks up one of the spears while they're looking over the bodies, and they're like, he doesn't know what he's doing, and he just goes through the katas, and they're like, holy shit. And it's just funny because I spent 3 hours tonight at the dojo that I train at with the Aido, going through my katas with my sword, and it was like, nice. So I just finished chapter 28, and Dalinar's stepping down, which is a very interesting turn of events. I understand why he's doing it, but I like Dalinar a lot. As of right now, he is my favorite, and I believe him. I don't think he's crazy, but everyone around him is like, you've lost, the Blackthornness, we need someone like this. I was like, I don't know. I feel like Dalinar is the in the right here. So the fact that he's stepping down is like, don't let them bully you out of your position, pal. But also, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he's right, and maybe he does need to dip. So that was pretty wild. The fact that him and Yasna are essentially texting back and forth was really fun. And it's totally Shallan, right? Who drew that picture for Yasna? Very interesting. And I want to know what's going to happen with her, Yasna's mom, and Alakar's mom, because she was gonna go with either of the brothers, but then went with Gavilar because she said Dalinar scared her, which, fair from what I've heard about the Blackthorn. He seems pretty scary. But then he's also she's kind of messing me up just being here. So, an interesting tension. I do love that Dalinar is like, wait a second, why are we using Shardplate only for war? Like, why don't we use it to, like, be productive? Interesting. A lot of interesting things happen. Oh, hold on. So, I have a theory, perhaps. Or maybe it's already been said, and I'm just remembering it because I forgot it. But they said that shard blades and shard plate is, like, really hard to come by, right? And Dalinar said that when they had fought the Parshendi before, they did not have any shard blades or anything like that. But we just saw in the last chapter, he saw a Parshendi with shard plate. And I'm pretty sure Gavilar was a shard bearer as well. So did the Parshendi hire Zeth to kill Gavilar to get his shard blade? And then brought it back to the Parshendi because they wanted shards as well? Because we know that you can kill a shard bearer and then you get to keep the shard plate and the shard blades. Is that what happened? Zeth has a new master? What a way to reveal that. To have him just be, like, going about his day, and he's, like, looking for somebody, and somebody else shows up and is like, hey, here's the head of your old master, just so you know. And also, you belong to me now. Takes out his oath stone and is like, also, we're gonna use you to the best of our abilities, and the best of your abilities. And Zeth is just like, oh god. The fact that he is so dangerous, but hates it, and now it's like his worst it's kind of, you know what it's kind of like? It's kind of like in Aladdin, you know, at the end, where Jafar gets the lamp, and Zeth is like Genie, being like, I have unlimited cosmic power, you know? That, like, if used correctly, he's an absolute monster. And so he doesn't want to be used correctly, and he tries not to make a big show of his, like, abilities. That would suck. That would suck so bad. But, I'm in. So I'm on chapter 29, and Shallan is talking to her brothers through, like, you know, the little pen pal AIM instant messenger thing that they have going on. But they said that Luesh, the guy who knew how to use the Soulcaster, was killed. But then it says that this person, so Luesh is dead, and Nambalan said, I wanted to show you something. Have you ever seen this symbol before? The sketch that followed was crude. Elita wasn't much of an artist. Fortunately, it was a simple picture. 3 diamond shapes in a curious pattern. I've never seen it before, Shallan wrote. Why? Luesh wore a pendant with this symbol on it, Nanbalat said. We found it on his body, and one of the men who came searching for the Soulcaster had the same pattern tattooed on his hand just below his thumb. 3 diamond? Ghost Bloods? Isn't their symbol like three diamonds? Hold on. I just Googled it, and looks a whole lot like a Ghost Blood symbol. Looks like 3 diamonds. What does that mean? And wait, isn't Kelsier, like, the leader, like, founder of the Ghost Bloods? And now, how does this tie in? Huh. So I just finished chapters 31 and 32. And 31 was another flashback chapter, but it was with Kaladin's dad, and he had, like, been drinking and is by himself, and then a group of people showed up to their house to rob them of the spheres, and he was just like, you want them? Come and get them. That is wild. That would suck so bad if you spent most of your life taking care of people and healing them and treating their illnesses, and then a new Bright Lord shows up and he's just an asshole and he turns the people on you and they show up at your house to rob you? Yikes. I was really worried at first because I was like, what is on the other side of the door? And then I got real worried as well because every time there's a flashback chapter, I'm terrified for TN because they mentioned already that Kaladin's brother does not make it out of here. So it's like, whew. But, man, that would suck so bad to be betrayed by a community that you've served for so long. For spheres, for nothing. Wild. And then the chapter right after that, we got another bridge run, which is crazy. And Kaladin has this plan where he's using the bridge as a shield. Genius. But it immediately backfires on him. And he actually ruins the assault. And he's like, shit, well, that's not good. I didn't mean for this to happen. If you're going to beat me, keep me alive if you don't mind. What a roller coaster we are going on with this guy. And the fact that it's like, he just can't win. He's trying his best, but he can't win. Ooh, I met Lopin. And Michael Kramer is doing a very similar voice that he did for Wayne. And I love that. And I love that Lopin is like this little guy who's got one arm. That's like, hey, you want to take me. I promise you want to take me. I already love him. I am very excited to see where this goes. All right, I just finished chapter 35, and what a ride. So Kaladin gets beat almost to death by the other people because his bridge run cost them the battle, right? And it was his fault, and he miscalculated. Damn, that sucks. But then they're like, you know what? He needs to die by storm. So they hang him up, and he tells everyone, like, listen, tomorrow morning things are going to be a little wild. Trying to give them hope, and they're like, you know what? Even if you die, we're going to make sure that we carry on. We're still going to, have dinner at night and laugh, and, we'll carry on the tradition. And so he goes into the storm. They gave him a sphere. He goes into the storm, and Syl is there. And Syl is, like, the best. The fact she's, like, trying to help him out while this is all going on. And the visualization of him, like, hanging upside down, barely alive, and he sees Syl, like, holding her hands to try and, like, stop the rain from getting to him. She's so cool. But he does go unconscious, and he sees a face, and it smiles at him. That's gotta be the Stormfather, right? Because that's their whole thing, is like, we'll let the Stormfather decide. Because, they say that, but they know that nobody survives this thing. But Kaladin's like, maybe I will, I don't know. So, he does survive it, after the Stormfather, assumedly, smiles at him, and then he goes unconscious. They go the next morning. He's got 100 cuts all over him. He's, like, not well, but he's alive. And the sphere is empty. It's used up. But storms are supposed to charge the spheres. And he said that when he had the vision, he was holding the sphere, and it was like a blue fire in his hand. What does that mean? Like, did he die? But the Stormfather, like, blessed him? Oh shit, storm blessed. Ooh. Does the Stormfather have favorites, and is Kaladin at the top of that list? And did Kaladin actually die, but the Stormfather used that sphere to, like, bring him back? This is crazy. So, that was a bit of a turn. So Shallan is hanging out with Yasna, and they're talking about, religion, and Yasna being a heretic, and philosophy, and all these things, and it's like, okay, yeah, it's good conversation. And then Yasna's like, I want to show you something. Let me show you, like, a lesson. And Shallan's like, damn it, I kind of like her. I don't think I can do this anymore, And then Yasna takes her down this alleyway in a bad part of town, and these guys surround her, and she's straight up, like, lights a dude on fire, turns another dude into crystal, force lightnings 2 other people to death, and then it's like, nice, this worked out well. And then Shallan is like, oh no, I can definitely switch it out now. And then she switches it out. Listen, if I was hanging out with someone and I was going to do an old switcheroo and, rob her of her working soulcaster, and then I saw her do this and not blink an eye, and is actually like, yeah, listen, was I wrong? Was I? Because, I don't think I was. I would not want to mess with that woman. I, for sure, would not steal from her, and I would be terrified if she found out I did. So, yikes. Alright, a lot has happened. So Kaladin woke up, and Teft was, I guess, like, giving him spheres while he was unconscious so that he can heal. And then he was saying something about, like, he did something wrong to the Avengers? Shit, I'm not going to remember that word. Whatever that word is, Teft did something wrong, and now there's none of them left that believe that maybe the spheres can heal people. I don't know what's happening with that. But Kaladin's up, and he's healed more than he should be. And they bought Raka Razor. I love that. I love that they're still training, and like Kaladin clearly had like an impact on the team as a whole. That's really cool. But I also feel so bad for him because, you know, I caught glimpses of the depression prior to now, but the fact that like things are good and he understands that like, oh shit, Bridgemen are just bait, and then he could feel it coming on, like the depressive episode is like around the corner and like he can't stop it, and I was like, oof, my heart breaks for that dude. On the other side though, the fact that while he was like in and out of consciousness, and if he was going to die or not, like death spren were coming up around him, and Syl was on his chest with a little sword, like fighting off the death spren. Listen, there's something else here. I don't know what it is, but the fact that Kaladin survived the high storm, I think the Skymark had something to do with it. But beside the Skymark, he survived the high storm, and Syl showed up to him and has been watching him for a while, and nobody else can see Syl except for Rock. So Syl's interest in Kaladin, to the point where he's like actively dying and she's fighting off Deathspren for him. There's something there. There's a disturbance in the Force. There's some reason why she's attached to Kaladin, and I don't know what it is yet. But I'm very excited to find out. So there was that, and then there was a Shallan chapter where she basically was talking to her brother and was like, hey, I got the Soulcaster, but you don't understand. This lady's crazy, and if she finds out, she's going to hunt us down and kill all of us. To which my mind is like, then give it back. Like, I understand you can't. I understand that they're trying to go and save her family and stuff. But also, her brother rips the legs off of living crabs and is a psychopath. I'm just saying, sure, Yasna's got an interesting view of the world, but your brother's a monster. I'm just saying. So yeah, I don't know what they're doing. Also, I forgot to mention, I think before, that I got to the chapter with Kaladin, his dad, and their new Bright Lord, Royce, whatever his name is. I'm like purposefully not remembering it because that guy's awful. And his dad was like, he thought his dad was giving up, but his dad wasn't. And his dad's like, no, this guy's the worst. I just pretended to be mad and left. So his dad's playing some 3D chess around here. So interesting to see how that comes into play. But overall, I feel like things are starting to like turn into something else, you know? Like something else is about to happen, and I don't think it's going to be good. But we'll see. We'll see. So I just finished chapter 43, and I don't know why it never crossed my mind before just now, because Kaladin has tried to escape many times before and got caught every time, and it never occurred to me that he would try it again. And now he's going to try to escape again with the crew. Oh, no. I mean, he's done it enough to where he should have learned from something, and now he has a whole team behind him, and they trust him. Oh, boy. I just finished chapter 44. Rashon conscripted Tien? That made me real mad. That made me real mad. What an asshole. To wait. Mind you, you're the idiot who went, I'm totally gonna get this video flagged. Damn it, we're past that. So, you are the dum-dum who went hunting with your son. You both got gored. Your son dies. It's your fault. And then you're gonna wait to take Liren's youngest son? I hope this guy gets taken out in a real bad way. I do. I really, really do. Good on Kaladin, though. Good on Kaladin for being a really good brother. Because it's like in Hunger Games, you know, when like, shit, what was her name? Katniss's younger sister. When she gets picked and then she volunteers. Except they're both going. But now I know that Tien doesn't make it. Because Kaladin's mentioned several times prior to now that... damn it, this book. I will say, it almost got me. It almost got me. I could feel it welling up, but not quite. When he volunteered to take care of his brother. But, man. Anyway, the next chapter... I can't even talk. The next chapter is called Shadesmar, which I'm pretty sure is the name of the cognitive realm. So that's weird. Anyway, so I'm halfway through chapter 45, and listen, I like Shallan as a character, but her story to be right off the back of like how crazy Kaladin's is a bit of whiplash. And also, Yasna for 100% notices that the Soulcaster is gone. There's no way she does. I would be very surprised to find out that she hasn't noticed already. It's been weeks since Shallan switched him out. Also, I'm not crazy about this whole, like, Ardent being in love with her and like, hey, draw me with you stuff. But, hey, we haven't hit the Sanderlanche yet, so we'll see what happens. Okay, so I finished chapter 45, and Shallan, like, she's done this before, where she's, like, painting something, and then she'll just draw these, like, creatures in the back of the pictures, and, like, she doesn't know that she's doing it, which is kind of weird. So she just, like, blacks out, and, like, in a horror movie, when they just start drawing on the desk and they don't know what's happening. That's happening to her. And so she was doing this while painting the Ardent and herself, and then she freaks out, goes into the room, accidentally uses the Soulcaster without touching it or using it, and then she panics because Yasna's outside the door, so she cuts her own arm open to try and pretend that that's where the blood is coming from? What are you doing, girl? I just finished chapter 46, and honestly, might be my favorite chapter so far. So confusing, so crazy, so much happened. So, Kaladin is, like, sleeping, but he is the storm, and then he sees a Shin person who just murdered some people, and there was a blonde woman crying. That sounds a whole lot like Szeth, if that is him. And then he mentioned Odium. Right? And then he says the pact was shattered, and now men can no longer ride the storms, whatever that means. And then Kaladin, he wakes up, and the crew is, like, holding him down because apparently a high storm was happening outside, and he tried to walk into it, and they were like, no, we got to stop you here. So, what does any of that mean? He also said that, that's the Stormfather, right? It's got to be. Huge face, storm happening outside, 2 and 2. That's my theory. But he said Odium comes, and he's the most dangerous of the 16. Huh. Very interesting. And then it ended with him saying, Odium reigns. What? So then, Rock, I love the kind of sweet, like, intimate moments that are in the midst of all these. So Rock is going around and just, like, giving everyone a shave who wants one. I love that. Moash said that he wants a shard blade one day, and he joined so that he could hopefully get one. Interesting. But then Kaladin mentioned Odium's name, and Syl hissed and ran. What is that? How is First off, who is Odium? I have heard this name mentioned several times, and Syl is a Spren. How does she know who Odium is, and why did she react that way? And then, at the end, Kaladin meets Adolin. That was great. There's these guys, like, abusing a prostitute, which sucked. That wasn't cool. And Kaladin was about to do something, and then this guy shows up, and they're like, he's dressed in blue, and he's blonde. And I was like, Dressed in blue. Like Colin blue? Blonde hair. Like Adolin? And then he's like, stands there and he summons his shard blade and the other guy freaks out and he runs and he's like, hey, tell this guy that I'm not going to make the meeting today. What? We're getting some crossover and I am so into it. Shallan got poisoned by strawberry jam? And the Ardent brought it to her as a gift. And wait, so then he's not in on this, right? It's somebody else. Somebody wants Shallan poisoned. Gotta be Shallan too, because everyone knows Jasnah doesn't like jam. And she almost tried it, and Jasnah's like, oh shit, I gotta save you, I need my soulcaster. And Shallan is like, it's in my pocket, oh no! As she's like actively passing out, but the Ardent also took some, so wait a second. Oh no! Oh, hey, well, so Kaladin killed a shard bearer? Like he won a shard blade and the plate, right? Like you kill the guy, you get both. He could have got both and he gave it up. I understand the shard blade part because that specific blade just killed his friends and you don't want to carry that around because you'll have that forever. But the plate. Imagine if Kaladin had shard plate. That would be crazy. Honestly, there's a chance he might not be a slave right now. Anyway, beside the point, that was nuts. Okay, we are on the next batch of interludes, and we got some shit to talk about. First off, it was mentioned revenge on Varth? Who's Varth? Do I know Varth yet? If I do, somebody remind me. Secondly, Syl showed herself to the crew. That's cool. I like that. The following chapter, Jasnah honestly reacted better than I thought she would have to finding out that Shallan stole her soulcaster. Granted, she also believes that Shallan actually tried to take herself out when she cut her arm. So, you know, it's a little muddled there. She's like, get out of here. Also, you ruined your own life, you dum-dum. Why would you try and rob me? Nobody's going to take you in now. That was way more understanding than I expected from a woman who turned someone into fire, right? But this last chapter that I just finished, I get it now. I totally get it. Now listen, I grew up in some pretty extreme poverty. So I've always had a pretty visceral, I don't know if hatred's the right word, but I'll say a very, very strong dislike of upper class rich people. And the fact that Kaladin turned down the shard blade and the plate was like, I don't want it, it's fine. Mind you, he went after the guy who went after his dude. The one Light Eyes that Kaladin trusted. It was like, you're the one good one. This dude showed up and was like, why didn't you take it? He's like, because I don't want it, right? And he goes, yeah, just give it to my buddy and it'll be fine. And they're like, close the door. And killed all his friends and then was like, we're going to tell everyone that your friends were actually traitors and that you didn't do anything to stop them, and we're going to brand your head and you're going to be a slave and nobody's going to believe you because I'm taking the shard plate and the shard blade. What? And oh my god, poor Cal. Like, the one guy that he was like, no, you're different. You're actually a good person. And he's like, no, it's for Alethkar. No, it's not. You. That was close. I almost got my video flagged again. But listen. I get it now. I get it. No more Light Eyes. I'm team anti-Light Eyes. Except actually, I take that back. I'm emotional. Never mind, because I really like Dalinar. Dalinar's my dude. And Adolin, honestly, kind of cool. But I get it now. I totally get it. Kaladin, yes, that shit sucked. What? And he's crying while he's saying it's like, you were supposed to be different. Oh, the heartbreak. It's, damn. Also, the guy that was in the black robe, the like Storm Warden dude that came in with Amaram, they said they didn't know who the Shard Bearer was, and he's like, oh, we gotta find out who that dude was. But he said the Ghost Bloods are getting bold. The Ghost Bloods? The Ghost Blood? The same Ghost Bloods? Anyway, what a ride. What what a ride. Yikes. That Baxel interlude was very strange. You got a mistress, you got two guys that she hired, they're just in someone's, house, breaking all of their art, but they're not taking anything, and they're talking about a curse, and the old magic, and... I don't know what any of that means. And now, this second interlude with Garanid and Asher, whatever his name is, these things trip me up because I know they're in this book for a reason. I know they're important because Brandon Sanderson deliberately put them here. But I get done with it and I'm like, what was I supposed to take away from this? Like, people who know about Shadesmar and who know about, the cognitive realm, which are the same thing, and they're, measuring Spren, but also, making food that doesn't taste good. I feel like a crazy person, oh, this means something, but, what does it mean? What? Got another Zeth chapter, and it's like every one of his chapters is it's like watching an anime fight. And the fact that he just killed, 50 people, he took on three shard bearers by himself. Who is his master? I need to know who this new person is. That's just go take them all out. Wipe the whole clan out. And he's crying as he's doing it. And oh man, whoa. I don't even have words for this. I mean, just, whoa. So we got a real good Dalinar chapter. He's all right, high storms are coming. I'm probably going to be tripping balls. Boys, strap me in. And his dreams are visions, but he's somebody else in the visions. And so he's watching everything that's happened. And this time he's in this outpost town place, fortification. And he sees an army of shard bearers and radiants. 200 shard bearers. And they just show up outside the town. And you're uh-oh. And then they just take off all their plate and put all their shard blades down. And then just walk away. That would be terrifying. Because at first you're oh shit, there's an army of shard bearers. But then when they put it down and they just leave it, you're well, what does that mean? And the fact that everyone inside ran to go get them and then were killing each other over these shard blades, which does not bode well at all. The fact that these shard bearers showed up and dropped their stuff on your door and then you're going to kill each other over it, I feel probably proves a point that is not a good one to the Radiants. But I don't know what that's all about. Dalinar also mentioned to his sons that he actually went and saw the Night Watcher and he got his boon and his curse, but he didn't tell them what it was. He's that's my business. I will say that I love and very much relate to Dalinar in the sort of all or nothing kind of mentality. I know it's not how it's supposed to be. I get it. I've heard it's an ADD thing, but I don't really know. But that idea of I'm either 100% fully invested with everything I have, or I am entirely apathetic. I only have those two speeds, and I don't know why. It's just how I'm wired. So to hear Dalinar to be either these dreams mean something, or they don't. And we have to decide which one, because that will proceed. That would determine what my next steps are. And Adel is just my God, Dad! God, I love this. I love this. But Navani, not cool. Not cool. Dalinar's going through all this stuff. He's tripping balls. He's having visions. He's being undermined left and right. His own kids are Dad's gone nuts. And then she shows up, all curvy and walking, and he's damn it. And she's just oh, making eyes at him. And he's please, for the love of God, I am so tired. And I have so much going on. And she's okay. That was his brother's wife. And he's trying to stick to his principles. And she is not making it easy. But you know what? Good on you, Dalinar, for sticking to your guns and being no. But also, as principled as he is now, and knowing that he used to be called the Blackthorn, and knowing that they have mentioned when people would disrespect him prior to now, he would just kill them. very, very interesting. Because that means Dalinar, most likely, used to be a real piece of shit. And then he turned his life around and is doing something else now. I'm curious as to what that event was. And also, they keep mentioning that he doesn't even remember what his wife's face looks like. And they mentioned it like a couple times, so I feel like it's significant. But at the same time, where are we going with this? Like, Dalinar is so interesting. He is, as of right now, he is my favorite character, and I am loving this. But what does it mean? Dunny getting killed on a bridge run, and the fact that he got shot with one of Sadeas's arrows first. So friendly fire got him first, and then a Parshendi arrow got him, and because he was in the way, then he got trampled by the cavalry. And Kaladin went to go save him, and Moash took him down and kind of saved Kaladin. I didn't see any of that coming. Whew. All right, I just finished chapter 54, and that was nuts. So the big thing, Dalinar's at this feast, right? And Hoid shows up, and he's like really serious, and he's like, I gotta get going, sorry, shit's taking precedence. And he mentioned Adonalsium, and he's like, essentially, bigger things are happening, so I'm gonna have to leave. And he's like, oh, interesting. What? And then Sadeas shows up at this feast, and he gives this whole big speech, and he's being real dramatic about it. And he essentially says, Dalinar is innocent, but somebody is trying to frame him in some way, and he doesn't know why. And then he ultimately was like, Dalinar, why would I betray you? I've always been trying to prove you innocent anyway. And also, you're so self-righteous, dude. Which, is he? Maybe I'm a little biased. But so all this happens, and then Dalinar is like, hey, join me. Because he tried to get the other princes to join him, and obviously nobody said yes. But Sadeas is like, well, how would we do that? And he goes, well, we can do these assaults. Your bridge crews are really fast, and my people are stronger and slower. So we'll do that. I'll give you a shard blade, but I'm keeping the plate for my other son, which is a pretty great deal. But so all of this is insane because, this is Dalinar and Sadeas talking, but Kaladin is in Sadeas' army. So Kaladin is one of those bridge runners that Dalinar is talking about that's quick. So the circles, the Venn diagram is closing, which is very interesting. Is Kaladin gonna meet Dalinar? Has Kaladin met Sadeas even? Huh. But anyway, all of this to say, also, minor Era 2 Secret History spoilers from right now. So this whole thing has kind of made me believe, especially Hoid being like, I gotta go, things are kind of big, at an Alcium level. And so, the mention of Odium and stuff, I read Era 1, and it's Finn, it's Elend, it's Kelsier, and then I read Era 2, we got Wax and Wayne, but it feels to me like I'm zoomed in on Scadrial, or I'm zoomed in on Cell, or I'm zoomed in on these planets, that, stuff's going on, but ultimately, there's so much bigger stuff at play that it's like, you think Finn and Elend are the lead in the story, which they kind of are, but if you zoom out, especially after Secret History with Kelsier doing his stuff, and Kelsier's also, playing the whole thing that he's doing, it's like, you thought that was the lead, but then you zoom out a little more, and then you zoom out a little more, and it's like, there's cosmic stuff going on, and Hoid is obviously a part of that. So it's like, in the big picture, Hoid is one of, the main characters, along with, I guess, Chris. So there's another tier of characters that maybe I don't even know all of them yet, that are like the Justice League, that are just hanging out on the outside, kind of watching things happen down below, but the average person has no idea. So that's a lot to digest. That's pretty wild. But because I'm experiencing things kind of through Dalinar, I want to trust Sadeas, but the last chapter, Dunny got killed, and he's one of Sadeas' men, and Sadeas is using Bridgman as bait, which sucks. But, you know what, Dalinar, I'm assuming he also has bridge crews in his army, so he's also doing it. So now it's, really complicated, because clearly that's not cool, but they're all doing it. So I got a lot of conflicting emotions here. So I go from chapter 54 to chapter 55, all this cool Dalinar stuff with Sadeas and like, is he framing him, is he not, to Bridge 4. Mind you, they also said the Stormfather is like the king of the heralds? That's pretty cool. And the Shin people are basically pacifists? That is nuts, considering Zeth. But then they start talking about like, okay, we gotta keep these spheres somehow, but how are we gonna do it? And they're like, well, if we took a bow and arrow and we attached a pouch of spheres to it and then just shot it underneath the bridge, and then Lopen can grab it on one of our runs, and that's how we'll get money. It's so funny. It reminds me of like when I was growing up with my brother and just like these crazy plans, like, this isn't gonna work, and then it does work, and you're like, oh shit, it is gonna work. Okay, cool. I don't know, it made me laugh. Also, for anyone worried, I'm literally in bumper-to-bumper traffic. I met him. I met the Blackthorn. That was nuts. The fact that Dalinar is like a one-man army, and he's fighting, and he sees Sadeas go down and jumps over there like a Power Ranger, and just like beating the shit out of people and cutting, and just like Barristan the Bold level combat here. Crazy. And then he keeps losing his blade, and then he gets it back, and then he picks up a hammer, and he's like, all right, we're doing this old school. And he's beating the shit out of everyone with hammers, and then he gets surrounded, and then his helmet gets cracked, and then Adolin shows up out of nowhere, and then Adolin is fighting and killing people, and he's like, I had to fight all the way to get you, Dad. What were you thinking? And then Sadeas was like, well, that was close. Woo! So I'm halfway through chapter 57. And I gotta stop because I have to wake up early in the morning. And, well, Syl is not a Windspren. She's something else that binds things. And Kaladin can now also bind things. And he's like leaking light. And she mentioned a Windrunner, whatever that is. And Maps died. The chapter opened with Maps dying. I have to get up in the morning and go to work. And the last video I made was saying, oh, I got to meet the Blackthorn. I got to see a little bit, Dalinar just cutting down armies and like picking up hammers and beating the shit out of them that way. And everyone was like, cute. That's not the Blackthorn. And now I can't stop thinking about, dear God, what does that mean? So I am both terrified and excited, but also I have to get some sleep. So, listen, I got like a 4-hour drive home tomorrow after work, and I feel like shit's gonna get wild. So, get some rest, friends. I'm gonna try to do the same. Alright, I'm on chapter 60 now, and there's a lot to digest, so, buckle up. First things first, listen. I am just smart enough not to be a dumbass, and when people are cryptic and they just say things that they know I'm not going to understand, it makes me like them less. I'm talking to you, Hoyd. This scene where Kaladin goes out and he sees Hoyd and he's playing this like flute thing, and then he's like, oh, I'm going to tell you the story. And then he just, like, says a bunch of weird things, and Kaladin's like, I don't know what to do with that. I agree. I also don't know what to do with that. He even said, like, he started out as an idea, words on a page, and then named for a rock, which was worthless after he wore it. What are you doing to me, dude? All right? This is one of those things, it's like the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland. Or people that are, like, purposefully cryptic, and it makes me feel stupid, and I understand that's a me problem, but that happened. And then he's like, oh, I have lots of names, and he's like, well, you can call me Hoyd, but that's the name of someone he was supposed to love. It's not even his real name. What am I supposed to do with that? What am I supposed to do now? He's not even Hoyd. What? And then he tells Kaladin the story about Darathil, who fought Voidbringers, and then the Uvara people would, like, just stone the children to death because they weren't perfect? And then they found out afterwards that their emperor, who doesn't allow imperfection or failure, has been dead forever. And then they're like, oh no. And then they just started burning shit as well. So like, that was strange. And then Hoyt said that he's there on Roshar, I assume. He said he was chasing an old acquaintance, but ends up hiding from him anyway. Again, what am I supposed to do with that? You're like, oh, I'm looking for my friend. But when I do find him, I end up hiding from him. It's like, okay. I'm way more confused than anything in this pursuit, which is not fun. So then he gives Kaladin his flute, which actually I think is pretty cool. I like that, because then he's like, oh, I don't know how to play. He goes, figure it out. So obviously that's really important. And then he says that he had an apprentice that he's rescued before. Sigsol is a world singer? What is a world singer? I know a world hopper is somebody who can hop between worlds. World singer? And like Sigsol knows just a bunch of stuff. That was a lot. And then Syl helping Kaladin has made her like kind of keep her consciousness. Well, not consciousness, but like her memory. Like she remembers who she is and stuff because her and Cal are doing things. And Kaladin is turning into a Radiant? That's pretty wild. And very cool. Like, how is this happening? Is it on purpose? Was he always a Radiant and now he's like the power was dormant? You know? Is it like because of how he's lived his life, the blessings of the Radiance is now upon him? Or was it always there? He just didn't know? And how does Syl fit into all of this? Because she said that she was watching him before she showed up to him. And that's interesting. And then we go to a Dalinar chapter, which is great. Love me some Dalinar. And he's watching Adolin duel some people, and they're like, holy shit, this kid is good. He's like, yeah, I know, it's my son. He really loves this stuff. But I'm really glad that Dalinar told Alucard, like, his full thoughts. Because everyone's been calling him a coward. And he goes, no, I'm not a coward at all. I just want to understand. I want to fight smarter. And he's like, oh, why didn't you just say that? And I was like, why didn't you just listen, dude? So that was cool. But we go back to Kaladin, and Gaz has been gone for a week? Not good. I don't like that. And then they show up and they're like, hey, by the way, Bridge 4, you guys are fantastic. You're going on every bridge run ever now, which is crazy. Oh, I forgot to mention that Dalinar and Sadeas were talking about like changing up their tactics a little bit because Dalinar's like just taking a while to get there. And he's like, well, Sadeas's bridge crews are phenomenal. And he's like, okay, well, how about you try to use my bridge crews and we'll get you there quicker. Which I was like, oh shit. Sadeas's bridge crew that's really, really good and really fast is bridge 4. I mean, I'm sure there's other ones, but bridge 4. So it's like, okay, so Kaladin and Dalinar are going to be in proximity. And I like that. I like that a lot. But, so then he's like, okay, well, I'm going to go into the, we were supposed to train today, but Kaladin's like, well, if we're doing bridge runs all the time now, I should probably go and test out these powers I got. And so he goes into the chasm, and he just starts, like, trying shit. And he says the words, like the Radiant Creed, essentially. And I'm wondering, does saying the words activate the powers? Kind of like a Green Lantern type of thing? And like he infused Stormlight into a rock so he can like control and disperse Stormlight? That's pretty cool. So I like that he's kind of testing it, but I'm also like, how far does this go? Like what? Is he going to be able to fly? Because that would be awesome. That'd be very cool. And then the next chapter, which is the one that I'm currently on, Navani called her own son weak? I don't know how I feel about that. That feels important. Because, what? The king? You're calling him weak. And in the middle of their conversation, Dalinar just starts tripping balls, like while she's talking. He's like, yeah, and then it's just like, she disappeared. And I was like, disappeared? What the shit? where'd she go? And then he's like, oh, he didn't even know the high storm was approaching. And I was like, that would suck so bad. Like, be in the middle of a conversation, all of a sudden just like, boom. Because what it must look like in the present, the real world where Dalinar is, he's just like in the middle of talking, just like, and they're like, oh shit, like, he's in front of people, you know? Not good. Not good. I just finished chapter 61. Dalinar kissed Navani. She showed up, and the whole time I was listening, I was like, don't do it. Don't do it, dude. Don't do it. He did it. He did. She made a very good argument. To be honest, credit where it's due, she made a very good argument that everyone's treating her, like an outsider because her husband is dead, and now she's not a part of anything, and she feels so alone, and she started crying, and it's like, oh, shit, he's been in love with you his whole life, and then now this is happening, and oh, it's just gonna get so much more complicated for my dude. And she said that his visions are absolutely real now. So, cool, but also complicates things. So they're real, and she's like, okay, well, we can figure it out. But she also said that another king was assassinated by a Shin wearing white. Szeth is out here just toppling dominoes. To what end? Why? Oh, no. There's no way this theory is correct, but Kaladin was able to infuse a rock with Stormlight, and he has a breastplate. Is he going to create Shardplate? Looking like it's going to be a night of videos, friends. So Kaladin just got in the face of this soldier who tried to take water from Lopen, and it got me thinking. So Dalinar has been experiencing these visions and shit, and he's like, oh, they were Radiants, and he's thinking about the Radiants. And Kaladin is tied to them somehow, or is going to be one. I don't know what's about to happen, but Dalinar's nearby. He can see his arm. Kaladin can see Dalinar's army. They're just big, so they take forever. And he's about to do some crazy shit. Ah! Now, he didn't make Shardplate, but whoo, boy, did he piss off the Parshendi. This dude, for a people that hates it when you just touch their dead, they freak out, to be going out there with, like, armor made of their body parts and have a shield full of, like, pieces of them, diabolical from their point of view. And the fact that they were, like, so focused on Kaladin, nobody died, incredible. And what's-his-face got a promotion just because, and he didn't even know, so he just got, like, a free promotion. And I love that he was like, you know what, I should string you up. And Kaladin's like, go for it. Didn't work last time, did it? What a power move. Love that. And the at the end, when they're all kind of hanging out, and then the Parshendi are like, we are gonna kill that guy. And they just were about to send a shit ton of arrows at all his men, and he's like, oh no, oh shit. And then Dalinar showed up. Yeah, he did. Killed all 50 of them in like seconds, and then was like, respect. Dalinar's the coolest. So Moash went from being the guy who's like a real problem to being the best spearman, and Kaladin said as much to him, and then he explained like, oh yeah, no, I'm training because like I'm looking for some vengeance. Like, I'm trying to kill somebody. And he wouldn't tell Kaladin who it was. He did say that that he promised to protect him with his life, which is cool. And then Dalinar and Navani are walking around town and stuff, and just, are we doing this? Are we not doing this? You're like, okay, all right. And now I just got to the point where all of the Bridge 4 crew have armor on now, and they have decoys, and they got like a whole plan, and they've lost nobody in like 6 bridge runs, which is amazing. But Sadeas just came up to him and was like, hey, I think we have a way to take out a very large portion of this army. And it's like, this is the tower. We got to do this. You get all your dudes, I'll get all my dudes, and we're going to take them out, like, right now. Turn the tide of the war now. Oh, God. I am so nervous. And for some unfortunate news for you, I've been awake for like 20 hours, so I need to go to sleep. But I am fairly certain I am going to finish this book today. So, look forward to that. Sadeas left Dalinar and Adolin on the tower, took his army, took his bridges, and is just running away? What? So, Adolin and Dalinar are on the tower and they're fighting for their lives, and Dalinar sees Sadeas in the distance, and he just kind of looks at him and then just rides off. Did Sadeas try to kill the king? Is that what this is? And then he wanted to become like the lead of the investigation so that he can try and pin it on Dalinar, but he didn't have enough evidence, so he's like, all right, well, how else would I kill him? This is how. Is that what happened? Because, and I mean this in the most hateful way possible, if Dalinar survives this, I hope he goes full Blackthorn, and Sadeas mentioned in the past that when someone just like disrespected the Blackthorn, like heads would roll. I hope Dalinar just walks up to Sadeas and is like, hey, I lived. Whoop-ha! Decapitation. I'm out here tearing up on a walk because I'm on chapter 69 and Dalinar just gave Oathbringer for Kaladin and his men. Yeah, no, Dalinar's the guy. Dalinar's my favorite. For sure. He just kicked the king in the chest. So Dalinar beat the shit out of Elhokar and was like, listen, here's how things are gonna go from now on, just so you know. And also, I'm not trying to kill you, because I clearly could have now. So this is how things are going. Also, me and your mom are gonna bang. Power move. Power move. That's the king, dude. Well done. Well done. Also, just read that Yasna's Soulcaster was always a fake? Then how'd she do all the crazy shit? Huh. So Yasna and Shallan can both soulcast without a soulcaster, and Shallan killed her dad? So Yasna is up to some crazy stuff, and Shallan is like, no, I for real want to be your ward. And then she's like, well, if you're going to push me, and she just brings herself to Shadesmar? Like she can do that? Like, you don't need a perpendicularity or to, like, jump in a pool or nothing? She can just be like, cool. And they were talking to her before. And they're like, hey, you have to tell us something that we're not supposed to know. And then, oh, shit. Oh, shit. They were like, tell us a truth. Which means something that's a secret. And there's always another secret. Who was that? What was that? And then she said that she's researching Voidbringers. Were those Voidbringers? What is happening? So Szeth's hidden master is the king of Kharbranth, who's really well known for helping people, but he has a secret like lab, blood bank thing, just like studying people as they die because he's interested in like they're seeing something. He just told Szeth to try to kill Dalinar. This is the worst news for me. The Voidbringers are the Parshendi? What? Okay, I finished it. I'm gonna do a full review. But what an epilogue. Okay, so before the epilogue, because there's a lot of things that I went through on this journey, and once it started going, it was going, and like I tried to pop in to do reactions while I was reacting, but I was also like, oh shit, I was in it, you know? Dalinar's deal for Kaladin and his men, awesome. He's like, you guys are great. Imagine if you had resources. Let's do that. Come work for me, be my personal guard. Love that for Bridge 4. Absolutely love it. Shallan mentioned that her dad might have been a ghost blood? Listen. Spoiler alert for Era 2. Buckle up. I'm just saying that. Spoiler alert, Era 2. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, the ghost bloods being formed God, I'm so adverse to spoilers that I don't want to say it. You know who founded the Ghostbloods and who's in charge, right? So, but Shallan's dad was like an asshole, right? Who's not good. But he might have been a member. Hopefully he wasn't. Hopefully she's just assuming something. But Capsule, the guy that poisoned them, he was a member. What is happening? Anyway, so there was that. The visions weren't actually talking to Dalinar. He was just assuming that they were. That's why he was like getting mixed signals and stuff. But the guy that he was talking to at the end was God, like Adonalsium. And this is basically like a video diary that he just like left in the ether, and then Dalinar found it. And he mentioned that Odium killed him. Huh. Also, he said, somebody must unite them, someone must protect them. Life before death, strength before weakness, journey before destination. Speak again the ancient oaths, and return to men the shards they once bore. The Knights Radiant must stand again. He also mentioned Dawn Shards, whatever Dawn Shards are. I don't think I know what that is yet. But I'm getting a lot of mixed shit, because the shards, from what I know from Mistborn, is like Adonalsium was like the main god, and then he got split into 16 pieces, and I'm assuming Odium killed him, and that's how that happened. But then where was everyone else? How did that? That's for future Brian to figure out. So he said that if you say the words, it will return the men the shards they once bore. The shards, like big capital letter shard, like preservation and ruin and shit like that, autonomy, or the shards like the shard blades or the shard plates, because I don't think those are related. It's just the same word, which is Brandon Sanderson. Very confusing to have Mistborn be like, oh, shards, and then you get to Stormlight and you're like, shards, but they're not the same thing. It's a lot. And then so he's talking to Adonalsium, assumedly, and then he said, Odium killed me, and he's like, sorry, shit went wild. So where did Odium come from? He said that he created mankind. Was Odium not mankind? And if so, if he was, how did he get... Future Brian will figure that shit out. But the epilogue has Hoyd hanging out at like a gate, and he's like, oh, just waiting for the storm to get here. And then he's talking to these two guards, and he's like, what's important, blah, 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 blah. And a herald, like one of the 10, and they mentioned that like one was lost, and then the whatever of the original 10. I'm kind of reeling from it, obviously. He said that he was a shard, and Hoyd called him the lost one, and this guy was like, you need to tell everyone you're under attack, like shit's happening, and then he falls over. But he had a shard blade, and he dropped it, and it didn't disappear. What is that? Oh my god. Okay, full review coming. Okay, I have finished The Way of Kings, the book 1 of the Stormlight Archive. And, let's talk about it. This was crazy. It was a ride. It took me on an adventure, and not one that I saw coming or was expecting or could have guessed. It was very different from Mistborn and like the books that I've read, prior to now. And I liked it. I know along the way there were some times when I was like, so invested in Kaladin that it made me less invested in Shallan. Dalinar, day one, my dude. Big fan of Dalinar. Dalinar's my favorite character of this book. Big fan. Sanderlanche was wild. That war was wild. The setting is crazy. The Hoyd stuff is kind of blowing my mind right now, because like as I started this Cosmere journey, I understand that there are the planets where these stories are taking place, and I understand that the planets are a small part of the Cosmere, and there's some like big picture stuff happening at the same time. So you've got like the world hoppers and stuff like that, but I still don't understand how it all ties in with like all the shards and how the shards are all together. You know, like, what's the hierarchy of being? Like Adonalsium obviously being like the god that got split into 16 pieces. But where did the people come from that took the shards and then became those things? And Odium is killing people like other gods. Why is nobody stopping him? Can people stop him? Like, why is he so strong and the others aren't? I don't know. I am very interested in where this goes. I'm super excited for Words of Radiance because I've mentioned this before in other videos and on some of my lives that across the board, Words of Radiance is like everyone's favorite Cosmere book. So that makes me really excited. I'm really excited for kind of the changes that are happening in like, well, I mean, there isn't a change in leadership because Elhokar is still king. But Dalinar making moves, Dalinar talking to Adonalsium, I think. Just where do we go? Where do we go from here? You know, like this felt like a lot of people have told me that this whole book is essentially a prologue, and I understand that now because in hindsight, it does feel like a incredibly long prologue because it set up the characters, but it also like changed them so much from where we started to where we ended that it was like, oh, that was just so you get like a little backstory of where we're going next. So that was nuts. Said Dalinar for sure, my favorite character. I loved everything about him. I'm very excited to see where he goes from this. Now that he doesn't have Oathbringer anymore, what's he gonna do? Is he just gonna find another shard blade and then he's gonna take that and be like, all right, cool, we have one? But Syl said that she likes him better without it, meaning he probably doesn't need it. But oh shit, what does that mean? Anyway, Dalinar's my favorite. Loved Syl. My favorite moments from this book, for sure. Dalinar giving up his shard blade for all of the Bridgemen was very cool. I teared up a little bit. That got me. Dalinar kicking the shit out of Elhokar, just showing up and be like, boom, this is what I could do. Incredible. Kaladin's cool. I'm very glad that he kind of became the hope. The fact that Kaladin is, I'm guessing, a Knight Radiant, like dormant in himself. But it said it's because of Syl as well. So I don't know what that is. The thing about this book is it raised so many more questions than it answered. And so I'm just like, what do I do with this? That said, yeah, I love the moments with Dalinar. I love the moment with Syl fighting off the Death Spren off of Kaladin when he was recovering from the High Storm. The fact that Kaladin can just like soak up Stormlight from spheres is really cool. I like his crew. I think in hindsight, out of his crew, I think Teft is probably my favorite. I'm interested to see who stays, who goes, what the next thing's gonna be. Who are we uniting? Because the Vision told Dalinar, unite them all. But then he said, unite them all, someone has to protect them, and then say the words and return the shards and all that. So, makes me think, uniting isn't uniting the High Princes or the other kings, it's uniting the shards and getting the 16 back together to make one? Maybe? I don't know. If Kaladin is now a Knight Radiant, again, assuming a lot of things here, which I shouldn't, because Dalinar assumed that they were talking to him, and that led him to trust Sadeas, and we saw how that turned out. So I'm just going to make the same mistake. Assuming that Kaladin is a Knight Radiant now, just a dormant power, does that mean there are going to be other people that are also dormant Knights Radiant? I don't know. What else can he do? They said they're going to try to see if the rest of the crew can maybe do it, and Moash seemed kind of excited about that, which worries me a little bit, because he said he's about this for vengeance and he wants to kill somebody. So I'm like, should we teach this guy to also do this? The reveal of the Parshendi and the Parshmen being the Voidbringers? Interesting. Yasna is a soulcaster without the thing. Shallan can also do it. Interesting. So, yeah, there's a lot of that happening. Although, One thing that I didn't mention in any of my review videos, because it's just like, once you get going, I try to bounce in and be like, and then go back. But Dalinar and the Night Watcher, and he mentioned, like, he didn't say what his boon was, and he didn't say what his curse was. But we found out that the curse is he can never even hear his wife's name. Like, he mentioned a few times that he doesn't remember what she looked like, and he doesn't remember her name. But now he can't even hear it. Like, if somebody else mentions it, he just hears, like, a wind passing. Ooh, that would suck so bad. So bad. And you have kids. You're like, I don't even remember your mom, and I can't even hear her name. Absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. I don't like Sadeas at all. He tried to leave Dalinar behind to get him killed. That dude kick rocks. Szeth. Very interesting character. I think out of the characters that I'm like most interested in, I think it's Dalinar number one, and then probably Szeth. The fact that he's like a reluctant assassin, and now we know that the King of Kharbranth is actually a monster, and he's the new master, and he told him to go kill Dalinar and make it brutal. And Dalinar doesn't have a Shardblade anymore. And Szeth has fought a shit ton of Shardblades and killed them all. Damn, I'm all worked up now. Yikes. But anyway, this was a wild ride. I did enjoy it. As of right now, I'm still, I like Mistborn a lot. This feels huge and epic, and a lot of it just like hurts my brain. It also felt like a prologue where I like got to know everybody. This is like a prologue for all the characters, because Shallan went from a girl that's just trying to rob somebody, Kaladin, like hero to a slave, but now he's like a Knight Radiant, and Shallan is like a soul caster. So you're like, okay, all right. Dalinar, like everyone kind of came into their own at the end of this one. So I'm excited to jump into... I bought it today because I knew I was going to finish it. I'm excited to start this next. Words of Radiance is next, and I am terrified and excited, and I just want Dalinar to be okay, and I want Szeth to find freedom somehow, and that's all I care about. I'm interested to see what Kaladin becomes. Now, the fact that Kaladin is in Dalinar's army is so cool. I love that. I want to see what happens. I'm terrified for the big picture stuff with all the gods and Adonalsium and whatever the shit Hoyd is up to. And the Ghost Bloods. How do they fit in? I don't know. It was good. I liked it. I'm excited for the next one.